Uh, this is a great guitar riff, Dazed and Confused by Led Zeppelin, or it's kind of a controversy about the song because it was originally written by folk rock British artist Jake Holmes. And Led Zeppelin, well, actually, before Led Zeppelin was formed, when Jimmy Page was in the Yardbirds, they adopted the song and they changed some of the words to it and played it in the Yardbirds, and it became a big song on Led Zeppelin's first album. So I'm not going to talk about the controversy of the song, but there was a settling of the credit to the song. Jake Holmes took them to court, and so it's now by Jimmy Page, but inspired by Jake Holmes, I believe, was the part of the settlement. But I don't know any of the details. But anyway, so this is a pretty straightforward riff. And if you just play the bare notes with no bending, it's an open E and then 5th string, 10th fret, 9th fret, 8th fret, 7th fret, open 5th fret, 4th fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret. And that's basically it, except for the B chord. And I'm doubling the high B. So I'm playing open B and then B with the pinky. And it's just a root 5th chord. It's not a B major. B major would sound like this. That's a little too sweet for Led Zeppelin, right? So it's a root 5th chord, and one of the early examples of a well-known, well-played root 5th chord by Jimmy Page. Now, physically, to do the bends, it's really one of the easier bends, and we've already been into bending some, and we've done more advanced bends, but we're just doing half-step bends. So you're bending from the 9th fret to the sound of the 10th fret, and then playing the 9th fret squarely, and then going to the 7th fret and bending it to the sound of the 8th fret, and then going to the 4th fret after hitting an open string, and then bending to the sound of the 5th fret, then hitting the 4th fret squarely, and then going to the 2nd fret, bending up to the sound of the 3rd fret, and hitting the 2nd fret squarely, and then you hit another open string like that. So that's basically physically what you're doing, and I'm not sure exactly. I didn't really study the way Jimmy Page played it, but I'm using 2 fingers, fingers 1 and 2, as if they were duct taped together, and I'm kind of angling in, and I'm pulling both fingers to do the bends, and it kind of helps to have 2 fingers. That'd be better than trying to do it just. It's kind of not a, it doesn't even look good to do it just with the first finger. So you want to do it with the third. Some people might prefer the 3rd finger, but I don't do it that way, mainly because you're going pretty close to the nut when you get to the 2nd fret. And you would think, well, why not do 1st finger, because that's going to be the bass note of the B chord, but I think it's a little risky to do it with the 1st finger. You might accidentally do a pull off or something like that. So I do the 2nd finger, and then I kind of slide into the B chord like that. So, and you want to vary the way you do it. I know Jimmy Page did not do these bends exactly the same way every time. And so you can kind of soar up and then back down and then hit the note squarely like And sometimes you might want to just go where you're not coming down off the bend, you're just bending and then hitting the square note, after that. And on the square note, you can do a vibrato or not do a slow vibrato or a fast vibrato. So you can vary the way you play it, and that's what makes it stay alive. If you did it exactly the same way on every bend, it would be too stilted, I believe. And another thing I want to talk about here is the B chord. So you're using at the second fret, first finger, third finger, and fourth finger. And then you're playing the open string. But what about the first string? You don't really want to hear the first string. That might sound great in another song, but not in this one. What that does is kind of makes it a modal chord or like a B sus chord, which implies that it's going to resolve to a D sharp. But this chord doesn't even have a D sharp, so it's a root fifth chord. A normal triad has a root, a third, and a fifth. And so if you spelled a D major triad, it would be, a B major triad, it would be B, D sharp, F sharp. But we're leaving out the D sharp and just playing B, F sharp, B, B. So it's only two different notes, and there's only one fifth in it. And I'm getting a little complicated here, but how do you keep from hitting that first string? Well, what I tell my students is to do a blocking technique that a lot of pedal steel players do. And that's to put the pinky up against the first string, and then you can pretty much strum freely with your wrist with that pinky. Now the pinky may slide laterally as you strum, but if you accidentally hit that string, you're not going to hear that open E, right? And I'm still got my pinky against the string. And when I was playing this a few minutes ago, I think I had both my pinky and my third finger up against the first string, like. And that sounds, I'm pretty sure he's doing that because I could hear it on the recording. It didn't sound like just with one B. When you hear the two B's ringing together, it has that more open sound. It's almost like a 12-string guitar or something, So I'm pretty sure he's doing that. I can't say for sure, but I've got a pretty good ear, and at one time I thought, what is it about that B? And then I thought, oh yeah, two B's. Two B's are better than one, right? So now I want to talk about the rhythm to this, and it's pretty straightforward. We've done a lot of blues rhythms where we're counting 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you're doing a blues in 12-bar blues in E, it would be 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And this one's in the key of E, but it's mostly you're hitting just the beat. And the beat would be not just a quarter note, but a dotted quarter. A dotted quarter rings for 3/8 notes. And in 12/8, a dotted quarter really is a beat. It's a compound rhythm where technically 12/8 means that there are 12 beats in the measure and an eighth note is a beat. And some people would count it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But I would count it as 4 beats divided like 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. To me, that gives you the sense of 4 beats, and it's like you're dividing them into, instead of a pair of eighth notes, into 3/8 notes. So anyway, a little lesson on rhythm. But if you haven't done this kind of rhythm, it is important to understand it. It's not just 1 and 2 and. It's 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. That's the underlying pulse of the rhythm. And excuse me, throat's a little dry here. But when you play it, it starts in the first measure 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And notice that it's like 1, 2, 3. That's a shuffle beat. That's a quarter note followed by an eighth note. So the quarter note is 1, 2, and then the eighth note is 3. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. And now the bends, really, you don't count the act of bending into the note, because it's a grace note. It's what we call a grace note. That's when you have, like if you have a beat, I'm beating against my chest, like 1, 2, and you go pa-dum, pa-dum, sort of like a flam on the drums, like pa-dum, pa-dum. You don't count, even though you're hitting 2 separate things, you just count it as 1. So when you bend those half steps, that's just counted as 1 beat. It's not and 1 or and a 1, or anything like that. It's just 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3. I kind of overbent there. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And then when you get to the chord, it's 1, 2, 3, 2 and 2 and 3 and 3, 2, 3, 4 and 2 and 3 and that's 3/8 notes, and the eighth notes are all downstrokes, down, 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 and then you have 16th notes, 2 and 2 and 3 and that would be played down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up. And of course I've got my pinky, and in this case I've got both of my pinky and my third finger up against the first string. And that'll take some getting used to, like blocking that first string, but it's a good technique to learn and to be able to do when you need it. Really helps to play more cleanly. And I'm also muting the sixth string with the tip of my first finger, and if you've been with me a while, you know how to do that by now. And so we're just really freely strumming. It's rock and roll, man. You just bang on the guitar, right? So this is a great riff. It's really an interesting riff. It's I remember, I was a teenager. I was about 15 when I first heard this riff, Led Zeppelin 1, and it just really, to me, it was haunting. It was kind of like something from a horror movie. Creepy. And it's not a real flashy riff. It's not a lot of fast notes or anything, but it's really effective for the song Dazed and Confused. And it does kind of have a confused kind of sort of off balance kind of feel to it. But I think it's the chromatic descent of these notes. Very haunting, So it's always good to go back to when you first heard something, because I'm way past 15 years old now. I'm actually 68, going on 69 years old. So it was over 50 years ago that I first heard this. But to kind of take yourself back to when you first heard something. And it's interesting about music. Sometimes, I'll hear a piece of music, like I play classical guitar, and um, I'll hear it, play it on a CD, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's nice. And then I hear it in a movie, like a movie soundtrack. I go, wow, that really is profound, you know. And sometimes you hear music in different situations. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but another example is um, Jimi Hendrix uh, with Band of Gypsies, Machine Gun. And I always thought that was just a brilliant song, and played it so well. But I remember being in a bar slash restaurant, and they were playing it over their music, and I was listening to him playing the solo, and I go, gosh, I didn't realize. I mean, I had that album years ago when I was 15 or 16, and I never really listened to that solo like I was hearing it in that bar, you know. So sometimes if you're in a different situation, a song or piece of music will hit you in a different way, and then you realize, wow, that really is profound. And that, to me, that Machine Gun solo that Jimi Hendrix did with live, it was live with Band of Gypsies, uh, was probably the most profound thing that he ever did. I'm getting way off, dazed and confused, but I just wanted to point that out. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. It's a real basic riff. It's really good for developing bending. Bending strings. And another thing I forgot to mention is, if you noticed, the fourth time I did the riff, I did a harmony to it, like. And Jimmy Page would do that, especially in early Led Zeppelin. I haven't seen him every time he's played live, but he would do the regular riff and just just really get it to where the audience knows what that sounds like. And then he would harmonize the riff without playing he couldn't play both parts at the same time. I mean, it would be possible maybe to, I don't know, to play both parts and bend them both, but it'd be really hard to keep them perfectly in tune. So he would just harmonize the riff, and the listener has already heard the riff enough that they can hear it's a harmony. So what it is like a major thirds, all major thirds. Sorry, I'm a little off tonight. And I've heard him do that with other songs and other riffs with Led Zeppelin. But, I remember I had one DVD set. It was 4 DVDs of Led Zeppelin from when they were first on tour, and it was like kind of rough, They were really basically a blues rock band, and they hadn't written that many songs at that point, and it was kind of like an experimental thing almost. And then by the time they did Stairway to Heaven, and then on the fourth DVD, Stairway to Heaven was on there, and you could see how much more refined the band was by then. They had really learned to play together well, and it was, they had grown up, they'd gone through a lot. And so, you could make some references to Spinal Tap, but you have to give them credit. Jimmy Page was much more than a brilliant lead guitarist. I followed him early on because I heard that first Led Zeppelin album, and I would buy these cheap albums that it would be a British artist. I can't remember the names, but with what Jimmy Page on the record, you know. I bought it only because Jimmy Page was on there, but he always played something unusual and something brilliant. And he was a studio musician, so he played on a lot of different bands' records, and he didn't really get credit, you know, when he played on those recordings. I think he played on a Kinks recording, maybe You Really Got Me, he played the lead guitar part, and um, probably before Dave Davies became a great lead guitar player himself, you know, in the early days of the Kinks. Um, and you know, so had a lot of experience in the studio, and has been really the engineer and producer of Led Zeppelin all through these decades. So you have to give him credit, and for the brilliance of Jimmy Page, and he seems like a wonderful guy. I would love to meet him sometime, but anyway, so that's enough of this, and let's wrap it up here. And please like. I really need your likes and your to subscribe to my channel, John Hedger Guitar Studio. Visit me on Instagram. I might put this video on Instagram, and also my John Hedger Guitar Studio Facebook page. So enjoy, and have fun with everything. Okay?